Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Entrepreneur Hour. I'm here with my special guest, Mike Pagan, local Bronx history in the making. um, so I like to so I actually always start the show about how we met, and you've been on the show before. I met you through Paco, and
Right.
Paco's been on many times, but you and Paco have been working on many different things, and then Paco brought you to my attention, and we met, and then we put together a project really quickly. We could talk about that maybe later, but yeah, basically how I like to start is tell the people about your background. Tell the people about how you started. What's your superhero origin story, as I like to call it.
Okay. So, well, superhero sounds interesting. So, okay, the interesting part, you know, some might say entrepreneurship is it's you're born with it. You know, I just think that when you're like I grew up in a middle class family. My father was a chef. My mother was a professor at Lehman College. But my mother didn't become a professor until she was later in life. So, we grew up in the inner city, and my mother was working as a school aide, and she was going to school at night to become a teacher. And at that point, I was probably around like 8 or 9 years old. And then, when you're growing up and you see things, we didn't have the internet, we didn't have social media, so it wasn't as prolific as it is now as far as the wants are concerned. But you always want a nice pair of sneakers, and you always want you always want extra stuff. So my mother had this philosophy: I'm going to get you what I could, and it was always good. It wasn't bad, but I always wanted more. So she's like, if you want more, you're gonna have to go get it. So to take the long story short, I packed bags in the grocery store at like 10 years old, and then I used to go into the where the garbage was. I used to take the bottles, clean them, and get them for 5 cents, and you
What
do
age?
that for a while.
What age you were doing
I,
that?
I was about 10 to 12 years old.
Okay.
Back then in the 80s and the early 90s, we weren't as concerned as we are with our kids, and we don't want to let them out in the street. I think it was like we didn't have video games. I think we had like Madden '97. Later down the road, but at that point in time, there was no, we did what we needed to do. And then I remember as I got a little older, maybe like 13, 14, I used to sell the New York Times in Third Avenue and the projects door to door, knocking on door to door. I always did it for a little bit of extra money because I wanted a new pair of sneakers, or I wanted a nice new champion hoodie that was at the time, or whatever it was, I wanted it. And, I wanted to do it in a way that was positive. I didn't want to go run the streets and do things that other kids were doing. So I always worked. And then that was the beginning and the birth of my own entrepreneurship, because those jobs were, if you're packing bags or you're turning in bottles, the more bottles you turn in, the more money you get. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
Up to
learned
you.
that early on. And when I got my first big break, I was about 25, and I opened up a company called All American Brokerage, and it was a brokerage firm targeting livery cabs. And back then there wasn't a lot of insurance companies, nor were there a lot of brokers. So I was able to make my first $1 million pretty goddamn quick, and that was becoming a broker. Kind of like the way taxes work. You know how taxes, you have to have it done by a certain time.
Yeah.
At that point in time, everything had to be done by February 28th, which happened to be my birthday. So I used to work the whole month of February like a dog. And then by March 1st, all the payments came in, and bam, we made our money for the rest of the year. So
Because
then
people pay their insurance for the whole year up front.
you had to pay a subset of it, like 35% of it.
Oh,
So
okay.
out of the 35% of it, 10% of it was mine, plus the
Got it.
broker's fee. So I was making like $600 per car
Okay,
at
okay,
the time. And we probably did 1,000 cars our first year out, and
okay.
then we did like up to 4,000 cars, and I sold that business, and then I got a job, and
That's
I went
interesting.
from
That's interesting. What made you do that? What made you get a job after you made money?
I had bad partners, and
Oh,
anyone that's an entrepreneur has to make sure that when you have partners, you have clear defined roles, and before the clear defined roles, you have really a good stipulated contract. So you know what's gonna
Mm,
happen, what the out is gonna be in case the partnership goes south.
yep.
Make sure that the corporate structure is amicable for all the parties. Like for me, it was a bad partnership arrangement from the beginning, from the contract. So that forced me to sell. So I sold.
Oh, got it, got it. You wanted out. You wanted out of that business,
I
basically.
wanted out. I was the brain, the op. I was everything. All they did was put the finances up, which is a big piece also.
No, yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
it,
yeah.
it, it wasn't enough to take a big chunk of the profit at the end of the day. His father he put the energy into us, and I took it and I grew it.
Okay.
So that was my first. So then what happened was, once I sold that business, a company called Keep Insurance in Terrytown, I ended up taking a job making 46 grand a year. It's a humbling experience making $1 million a year to making $46,000 a year. Going to a job with a big body Mercedes and an X-Trail truck. They were like, "Who the hell is this guy?" I was 25, 28 years old, 27 years old, something at the time. And so that was my break into healthcare. So my break into healthcare was probably around that age, around 27, 28. And I've been rocking in healthcare ever since. And through the ranks, I grew the corporate world. I went from a contracting guy. So anybody that knows about healthcare, I'll give you a quick short of it. I'm the one that wrote the contracts for doctors to get paid. Sound like a cool job, but we didn't make any money. And then I did that for like 15 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, within different organizations and within different hierarchies. I went from as low as a rep to as high as vice president. And I'm gonna tell you, up and down the ranks, it was just something that it wasn't for me. I
Sure.
missed the entrepreneurship, and you're never gonna make as much money as the guy above you. So if you think you're gonna get rich, the guy above you got to be super rich. So if anybody's listening wants to make money, just know, just if anything, just learn that one concept. Learn that you're not gonna make money more than the guy above you. So
Very
I,
much.
but the guys above me, man, I learned. It's like I went to, even though all my degrees that I went to, I learned like the school of hard knocks from these guys. Like, they were like in their 50s and 60s, and they were really good businessmen. And that was the second chapter of my healthcare career, and which led me into what I own now.
Which is what? What? Explain your main business right now.
Okay, I own healthcare agencies. One is called a licensed home care agency. It provides senior support for people who need care. So, if you ever seen the older people walking with the people with the scrubs, I own the agency that gives them jobs.
Got it.
So we have about 800 employees now. We have up around like 900 cases. No, we got no around like close about 800 something cases over the past 5 years. So we've been doing okay.
So it's interesting to know how'd you make that transition of being in the healthcare industry to creating a company that caters to it. Like, what was the work for that?
Okay, so I'll give you the two sides of it. Well, I've always worked on the payer side. So the payer side is the guys who pays the vendors. And I always looked at the numbers from the payer side and said, wow, how do I make a break into the vendor side? Like, how do I be the provider? I'm always paying these guys. How do I get to the other side? So I went to go work at an MLT, a managed long-term care organization, and I saw all the ins and outs of it from the outer side. Then I went to become vice president at another place. The company closed down. Even though I took the membership from, it was like 2,500 to 12,000, it still wouldn't get them out the red. So I was forced to start a business again. I was making like $180,000 a year plus commission plus this. So most people would say, "Man, you were doing pretty well." I'm going to be honest with you. That was a false positive. I thought I was doing well, but all I was doing was aligning their pockets. And then when it was time for them to cut the strings, because the board always decides change, and if they feel like it's not going in a direction, they're going to cut it, and the people there. So I was one of them. So I lost my job. I was vice president, probably clearing 300 grand a year, and I lost it. And at that point, I made a decision to partner with my ex-partner in home care. And he was like, "Why don't you?" And I knew him. I met him when we were doing the MLTC stuff. And he's like, "Listen, why don't you come over? Let's partner, and we'll go 50-50." So I did it. I partnered, and we partnered for about a year. And after the year, I said, listen, thank you for everything, but it's time for me to do my own thing. And we dismantled our partnership. I went my way, he went his way. And even with the partnership, I still was pulling in about $500,000 a year. And it wasn't enough. Because for me, I wanted pure freedom. And the only way to get pure freedom out the whole deal is to be your own boss. Your name's on the checks, and there's no one to answer to.
Sure.
So
As a
that's what I did.
partner, you got 50-50 partners, 50-50 decision making. So
Yeah.
yeah. Yep.
Which is not always it's not a horrible thing. Like, I'm not going to sit here and tell people partnerships is bad, because I do have partnerships in pharmacies and other stuff. And it just, you gotta be aligned. Like, how I
Yeah.
think is how you think.
But
What
the
I'm looking for is
partnership
what
is
you're looking for.
picking the right partner is super important, because if you're not, like you just said, aligned, it becomes super difficult. It's a difficult situation. It's worse than a job, pretty much. So
Yeah. Because everybody becomes partners when there's no money. When the business has no money, we're boys. We have the best ideas. We sit down, and then once we start making money, real money, then everybody looks at each other like, I'm
how
doing
much you
more
make?
work than he's doing.
Yeah.
I put more money than he put, and it becomes a tussle. And this happens like 90% of the time. It's not like it does. So the contracts from the beginning need to be outlaid, and the only way to do that right is to really know your worth. When you know what you're worth and you know what you're bringing to the table, um, with the money, because you have to be equitable. You have to put money in it. Sweat equity is cool, but to be partners, you have to put money up. I believe you have to put money up to be a partner. If not, he owns most of it, and you don't. Because I've been through that. I've been through that. And then once you start getting to a certain place where you feel comfortable with your business, then you diversify into other market chapters, into other segments, so that you can offset your money in case something ever happens, like COVID again.
So we had a conversation literally last night, face to face, about this. So
Yeah.
talk about how you started to invest in other things other
Okay.
than your company. Like, what right now in the pandemic 2020, what type of advice would you give someone that is looking at investing in things?
My first advice is, don't be scared. Be cautious, but don't be fearful. Because when everybody's afraid during this pandemic, I stepped on the gas 100 miles an hour. I haven't stopped. I haven't slowed down. I've been all around. I've been everywhere around. I haven't said around the world because I haven't explored
Anywhere
Europe.
we can go as American citizens,
I've
he's
been.
been there.
I've been there. I've been there pretty much. I've been gone most of the summer, and I'm gonna tell you, everybody was fearful, and I was like, listen, it is what it is. If you either going, this is the time that's gonna make millionaires and billionaires, or is gonna make extreme poverty. You
Yeah,
pick the side of the equation you decide that you want to be on.
1000%.
If it's me personally, I'm gonna live my life on my own terms. If not, I'm gonna crash and burn. Motley Crue, best fucking land ever. So I tell everybody, listen, there's deals. I purchased real estate in some of the most exotic places, whether it's in the Maya Riviera, whether it's in Dominican Republic, whether it's in New York. And it's only because everybody's freaking out and they want to sell. And I'm like, all right, because I want to buy.
Yep. So real estate is a big thing for you. I know you also invest in other things. You invest in
Yeah,
art. You
yeah,
invest in other things. I guess what I try to learn from you in our conversations, our many conversations, is
right.
where should you start? If right now you were in a position to start investing, what should you do right now? Like, should you start with real estate because the opportunities are so big?
Well, yes. I see. The first thing I would start is I would do a personal analysis of yourself and your finances, and what's important. Because the younger you are, in one way, the better you are. Because if you start today
Yeah, more
at
time.
35 years old, you got a better chance than somebody that's at 55 years old. Because wealth takes time to grow. It's like traditions. It just takes time to happen. So if I was anybody starting out right now, I would make sure your credit is right, because credit is everything. I don't care what anybody says. You can have 10 million in the bank, but if you don't have good credit, they're not going to lend you nothing.
Yep.
That's the first and foremost. The second thing I would do is start looking for good opportunities. For me right now, I like real estate because it's stable. If you have a lot of cash in the bank, you're gonna spend it. It's not gonna be worth nothing. Inflation's gonna kill it. So
Yep.
you have to think about productivity, whether it's a business, whether it's investments, or whether it's like physical investments, commodity investments. I like that kind of stuff. I like to see things grow. So in that process, I buy other businesses, which I've been buying. I bought a few, and I like to invest in real estate to kind of stabilize my money.
Sure. So it's
I
like a
think that
safe.
helps.
Is that one of the safest investments right now? Real estate.
I think it's pretty secure. I think it's pretty secure in the sense that you're going to get a good return on your investment. Um, we've been talking that I enjoy vacational real estate. Like
Yep.
I have local stuff that we rent out to people, and it's a big headache. It makes us money. The cap's around 5 to 6%, so it's not horrible. But it's a headache in the sense that you got to take out their garbage, and if the water breaks, you got to do this.
Yeah.
And people don't pay your rent on time, and then if you do Section 8, like we have some Section 8 apartments, I think we have like 12. It's it just becomes another headache. So we've been talking about vacation because no one can go on vacation unless they pay their hotel.
Yeah. Up
You
front.
gotta pay the hotel. So you're gonna go but who's gonna want to stay at this big ritzy hotel during COVID when they're scared? So
Yeah.
we're providing housing in exclusive places around the world so that they can enjoy it and still feel comfortable. And I
Yep.
think that to me is where I've been putting my money, and I'm looking towards down the road. Just to continue
Yep.
doing
And
that.
me too. I saw something like this coming, not COVID at all. I did
Right.
see the economy crashing, right? Many people knew the
Yeah.
economy is going to crash right now. But I always thought real estate and vacation places, people still vacation even in the bad economies. So I started that process, and I'm finishing it up right now. And I know
Right.
you just did this the same thing. So like
Yeah.
as a you do real estate, but I know we've had many conversations about art and stuff like that. I think
Oh yeah, yeah.
I want
Oh,
to
yeah.
understand a little bit more about the art investment.
Okay, so I do like so. I'll break down my other investments outside of stocks and stuff like that. That stuff's complicated. I let professionals deal with that.
Okay, okay.
But when it comes to like watches, art, and alcohol, those are three good investments. Now you can't buy $100 piece and expect it to be 10,000. That's
Yeah.
unless you knew Baki, and unless you knew Basquiat when he was doing his thing, and
He
he
was
met you
dying.
and he wrote some shit and he gave it to you. That almost never happens. I mean, it happens, but during the when you had guys like that would just draw napkins and give them away as tips. Van Gogh used to do that shit. Basquiat was huge with that. I can't think of three other names, but there's a bunch of guys that did that, and so I'm a big art lover. Yeah, I buy arts and statues and paintings and sculptures, and why? Because I love it first, and two, they're great investments if you buy the right stuff. I know there's crowdfundings where you can invest in art, like
Yeah,
some
yeah.
people got art invested.
We
I,
spoke about
I
it.
I physically like to have it. It just feels good. I like to look at it, and I probably got close to $1 million floating around, which is not a lot of money, but in the reality, for me, it was a lot of money in art. And they've been growing. I got some stuff appraised. Like for example, I bought a Tufinio statue. I paid like 7,500 during COVID. I just got it appraised for 35 grand. So some might
Whoa.
say, "Oh, why would you do that?" And then I'm like, "It's worth 35,000." Now somebody might give me 35,000, or the Metropolitan Museum might want it. So
Sure.
another thing my wife and I have been investing for the past 20 years has been gold.
Okay. So gold is supposed to be the safest investment. Is it?
Gold is sick. It is. I mean, it when you're looking at inflation, without getting so technical, when you're looking at the inflation, when money, meaning the dollar goes down, when the dollar goes down, gold goes up. It's it's
Sure.
it's almost like a normal accord. When one goes down, one goes up. So gold is normally floating around 1,600 an ounce. I checked the other day; it's like 2,200 an ounce. So it's always a safe bet. Now, watch is another safe bet. But here's the thing: I'm not talking about the bling bling watches where you dump diamonds in them. Nah, those don't work. Those are not worth anything. They might look good for the human eye, but I'm gonna tell you they're not worth shit. Because most of like you might see an AP with iced out diamonds. It's just a silver watch. It's I'm sorry, it's not silver. It's a stainless steel watch, and they broke it apart by throwing diamonds in it. That's garbage. Unless the diamonds are from the manufacturer. If the watch is manufactured with diamonds in it,
the value's there.
When Jay-Z said those ain't Rolex diamonds, what the fuck you done to that? He's 100% right. Because you would get a watch I can show you a Rolex that costs $200,000, right? It has these funky yellow stones on it, colorful diamonds on it. That watch was $62,000 5 years ago. That watch is $200,000 today.
What made it raise so fast?
Just the market, just the demand on the market. Like there's another watch, Patek Philippe 5980. It has this chronograph. If you look at the retail price, $60,000. The resale price goes up to $400,000. So there's other ways to make money. You just have to know. Like watches are a good thing to take money. You got it, buy it, stash it, because you can always flip it. Like I bought a Richard Mille watch, which was like an RM 29. It was a little smaller, 40 millimeters, and I need like a 42, a little bigger, which is the RM 11. It looks like a Swatch watch. I paid $84,000 for it. This guy bought it for me for $90,000. And so what I did was I said, okay, instead of giving me the $90,000, give me these two watches and then give me $10,000. That's what he did. So basically, I got two watches and $10,000 out of one deal.
And both those watches go up in value, and you get the $10,000.
One is a Fatigue AP limited edition 40. It's only made 400 made. It was at $200,000 at one point, but for whatever reason, the market on that particular one dropped, and it's probably floating around like 50.
Actually, when I was doing work for Chanel, I was really getting into understand the watch industry, and they were saying that the watch industry was taking a dip back then because something was happening in China that was causing the watch values to come down. I forgot.
Probably because they was bootlegging them all.
Yeah.
Watches don't come from China.
I think it was something where China started taking away the opportunity to give gifts of watches to its officials. So the value, because that was a major trade currency to give watches away.
Oh yeah.
Issues.
Huge.
Yeah.
Because like I got this watch, right? This is a $35,000 watch. It's a cute watch. It's Ulysses. I like it because it has like this little spinning thing. It's a cool watch. You're gonna see it. You're never gonna think it's a $35,000 watch, which is a decent watch. But if I gave it to you, and you said I don't want it, it's a gift, and then you go and say, "Listen, I want to sell this," they're gonna give you $30,000.
Yep.
At least you're gonna get $25,000.
Exactly. So that's what she was saying. The girl at Chanel was basically saying that was like a common currency in China, and there's so many officials, and they'll give $500,000 watches. Hey, it's a gift, right? Yeah.
You can, Jay. It's funny because I always go back to Jay-Z because he's just the man. And he says something like, he goes, "It's complicated, $3 million a piece." He means it's a Patek Philippe complication edition, and it costs $3 million each, and he has two of them. And if you see the watch, you're like, "Oh my fucking god!" But they only made but so many of them, and the guy has both of them. So and the other thing is good and fine wine is another good investment.
Yeah, so explain that, because I didn't know that till you said it. So explain why. Yeah,
fine wine. Okay, so let's go back. So we're gonna look at Louis XIII. For everybody that's on here, I got homework for you. There was a movie called Cocktail in the 80s with Tom Cruise. There was a scene in the movie, probably like in the middle of the movie, where Tom Cruise and the other guy, I can't remember his name, they were on his boat, and they said, if you win, if you married some rich chick and you win, and you get her, I'll buy you a bottle of Louis XIII. The bottle at the time was $500. We're talking about 88, 89. The bottle was $500 because he said, "Here you go, a bottle of Louis Trace, $500." In the 80s, you must be like, fuck, $500. That same bottle, today's market is over $5,000. Same bottle. 1,000% markup.
So you're saying if you bought a case of them or whatever,
Oh,
it's just, yeah.
One bottle right now, Louis XIII could go for as low as $5,000, as high as $8,000, depending on the year. Because years.
But that's pretty long to hold it for that type of. I guess if you put it in stock versus that, it's a bigger jump. But I see what you mean. Like if you just hold it, it's another thing that holds value.
Just another thing. It's just another piece of. It's just another investment on the side. Like it's like if you put your money in bonds, how much money are you gonna really make? If you leave your money sitting in the bank, what are you gonna really make?
Yeah.
So there's wine that costs $30,000, $100,000. That costs like $100 at one time. So there's certain things you buy and you hold and you stash. And
so that's where the collectors, right? Wine collectors. It's not just because they like the taste. It is an investment that they make money on.
It is an investment that they make money on, and it's specifically like vintage wines. Like there's certain things that people could go look at, and I'm not telling everybody you'll just go buy cases of whatever. Like,
yeah.
You always got to be educated and do your homework on what you're gonna buy.
On any type of investment, right? So real estate, anything. So right now, so you're saying real estate is the best thing, or just your favorite thing right now?
That's just my favorite thing at this moment. Businesses overall have always been. I like anything that's productive. If you're gonna sit stagnant in a seat and you're not gonna move, you're gonna die, and you're not productive. So find something that's gonna give you production. Like whether you're gonna take a house and you're gonna rent it, whether you're gonna buy a business and you're gonna grow it, whether you're things like that. If it's not moving, it's dead. Like if you don't feed the plant, it dies. If you don't walk, you don't gain energy. You get out of shape. So you need movement in anything. Specifically real estate. And also at the end of the day, you're creating generational wealth.
The assets, yep.
Yeah, you're creating assets. So I tell everybody that's on here that are young. If you're young, if you're under 50 years old, just know that it's better to start building the blocks now. Get your first piece of property, rent it, get the next piece. Get the house that's multifamily, live in the basement, rent the top.
Yeah.
And it's okay. Don't let ego, and the worst thing, don't let your friends sway you into doing something else. Because no one cares. No one
Keep
cares.
up with the Joneses and stuff. Yep.
Forget about that. Listen, I drive a Wrangler 2014, paid for. It's hooked up, but it's paid for. My partners have 3 Range Rovers, and my pharmacy have Range Rovers. Right, 2020 all Range Rovers. So they come to see me in my office yesterday, and they all have the range. 2 of them had their Ranges, and my wife said, "Why don't we get a Range Rover?" And I was like, "Why do you need another bill?" Can I have it? 100%. I have the Denali truck and this shit in the Cadillac, but they're paid for. Why create more debt to make people look at you a certain way? When you have money, you don't want to look like you have money, because then you become a target. You want to look regular. You want to
That's
walk
what you see. That's one of the biggest things you see, right? And if you grow up in the hood, like I did, like you did, you think people that floss and show it have money. But when you really get to the level where you see people with real money, you realize the total opposite. If you are looking like that, it's probably because you don't have money.
Listen, when you see the guy with the big fancy car, right, big gold chain, when you start thinking about the debt that's attached to all that, you think, and you say, okay, he has a job. So once they say they have a job, okay, now you're on a limited income, because you're only making whatever that salary is. Right?
They allow you to make,
They allow you to make. And then what's the first thing you do is you buy a car. Like, I'm gonna be honest, I've had fucking more Mercedes than I could think of. And I remember at one point having the X5 S5, X5 4.4. It wasn't 4.6, it was 4.4 2000. And an S500 Benz, and when I sold the business, I was like, "Oh my God, how am I going to pay for all this stuff?" Because you keeping up with an act that you really, it's not necessary.
Your overhead, you create an overhead that you don't need.
I see the guy that's with the construction boots, busting his ass in his little Honda Civic, and I bet you he's gonna have a house, because you're building yourself, and building yourself is not building your closet.
Sure, exactly. It's assets. It's about creating assets, right? So a business is how you really started to generate your wealth, right? So a
Yeah.
lot of the young people right now, they want to ask right now, what advice would you give a young aspiring entrepreneur?
Learn coding.
Coding,
Learn coding. Learn online marketing.
online
Learn
marketing,
how social media works. I'm saying social media from a business perspective. Not social
exactly.
media. I'm going to take pictures. I'm going to post everything. I don't have social media. I'm like the anti social media
You can't find
because
Mike.
I'm in a different situation.
Sure.
So I would say learn coding, learn how robotics are working, learn how you can get your foot in one of those doors because that's the present and the future. If you could get a product and you can market that product online and do it yourself, then you don't have to pay companies to do it. Because how much money I'm spending on companies for fucking online marketing?
Yeah, yeah. No doubt.
No,
It works. It works, but it's true. Like if you know that skill, it saves you a lot of money. You can pretty much do anything, right? Anything.
anything. You could
Anything.
market and sell anything. You know what? If you can what's the example you always give? The guy that made the diapers.
Diapers.com.
He
Yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
flipping diapers from fucking what was it? From
So
Costco's.
I'm gonna explain if you don't know what I'm talking about. The guy who made diapers.com, he created a website. It wasn't even called diapers.com at first, where he would sell websites online. I mean, sell diapers online, go to Target, Walmart, buy them, and ship them. He started making so much money that he bought diapers.com, which cost him a lot. And then he started buying all of their inventory. And they had to be like, all right, we need to partner because you're taking all of our stuff. And he was selling so much he made that company to a multi-billion-dollar company, sold it, and
Uh-huh.
off diapers, off going into a store and buying diapers.
From selling diapers. And what he said, which I found was interesting, he says, we didn't make money off the diapers, but we made money off everything else.
So that was the big smart thing he did. The actual loss leader in his business, which means he lost money on, was the diapers. But he sold everything else around having a baby, bottles, cribs, all these other things, and he made a bunch of money off the side things, not the actual diapers. But he basically built the whole thing, called it diapers.com because he knew everybody with a kid needs diapers. So and then he built this into a huge business, but it was all online marketing, stuff that you could buy anywhere. He put it online and marketed, and huge story. So yeah, me and Mike have this conversation a lot. But the idea of he's right. Right now, it's the easiest time in the history of the world to sell anything, to create anything. If you understand how to pull those levers in marketing, you could pretty much make anything. You can get unlimited money, right? Like there's billions of people online. Like the whole planet is online now.
Yeah, and you don't need like before, like for example, if you want to invest in my business, you're gonna need a minimum of $500,000 to get into it, right? But an online business, how much money do you need to get into it? You just need
Literally,
the right idea, the right system.
I made a video the other day. It's on the channel. I put up a store in 15 minutes with
Yeah,
clothes, with t-shirts. Right.
yeah,
The thing is, once it's live, the work begins, right? You got to either market it or you got to draw people there some way. So that's where what Mike is saying is so valuable. I tell all the young people I work with at Meta Bronx and anybody who wants to create a clothing line or whatever it is, learn the marketing side to draw the traffic in, or make sure you have a niche that is very, very profitable so you could spend the money and pay someone, right? That's really
yeah,
going to
yeah,
up.
yeah. And don't get and I guess another good one is don't get afraid if you fail at it, because you really don't fail. You still
You
win.
learn.
You learn from it. So if and don't get so attached to it. So if the first one was like your baby and it is a flop, the next one is gonna be better, and then until you hit, and then you're like, boom, this is the one that worked.
Every
And
single
then
time you learn something. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
and then sometimes you could go back to the first one and revisit it and bring it back out in a different fashion. Like I wanted to open up a brokerage firm again. I don't know why, what the hell I was thinking. But the other day I was gonna buy one and say, because I told my wife I think we should have a brokerage firm again, and she's like, I was like, I had a good run in my mid 20s to late 20s.
And not
But
cabs, right? Because Uber killed that business.
yeah, Uber killed that shit. But I was looking at like business insurance and stuff like that.
Okay, okay, okay.
And I thought about it because if anybody knows Warren Buffett, where everybody kind of knows who Warren Buffett is, right? Does
Yeah.
anybody know Warren Buffett owns Geico?
Yup, that's his main moneymaker, right?
Does
Geico.
anybody knows he owns Dairy Queen?
I knew Geico. I don't even think I knew Dairy Queen. Wow.
So where he made his money, insurance and ice cream. Everybody knows him for Berkshire Hathaway,
Stocks, yeah.
all this other shit that he did after. But where did he make his money from the beginning was ice cream and insurance. Forget about
Insurance.
Pepsi, Coca-Cola. Forget about all the other shit that came after.
Insurance, I hear is one of the best, but it has a high ticket price to get in, right? Like you got to have some.
Well, if you're gonna own an insurance company, it comes with value. But if you're gonna own brokerage firms, so you could start at a brokerage firm and then end up, taking it to the next step. Like that was probably gonna be. That was always my vision of saying I'm gonna own an insurance company, whether it was health or whether it's property casualty or whatever it is. I probably will own one at one point, and I think that's because it's spreading risk amongst a lot of people, and you're getting a little bit of money from all of them
every month. All right, subscription model. Yeah.
every month.
Yeah.
It's the best model because then you know what, whether you're working or not working, or like I'm hanging out with you guys in my car, but I have 15 people in my office working.
Yeah.
So that's the beauty of entrepreneurship. You're gonna take all the pressure, all the stress, all the anxiety, all of that,
all the risk.
All the risk, but you're gonna be strong enough to start building a foundation of people that work for you, that can be able to take the load off you. You still have to put people in the seats on the bus. You still have to, create the direction, but that doesn't mean you physically have to be there stamping the envelopes, putting things away, and you don't have to. I don't do that anymore.
So as an entrepreneur, I know I've come across many landmines. What are some of the key things you would tell a young or any starting entrepreneur to look out for?
Pay your taxes.
That's one way to
pay your taxes.
Taxes, that's a good one. Yeah.
Pay your taxes.
As an entrepreneur, yeah. So first step, make sure you have the accounting and the understanding of the money to make sure you're paying the taxes. That's good.
Pay your taxes.
So what else? Anything else? Any other advice?
Make sure that if you're going to go into partnership, make sure that the contract and the terms are amicable for all parties.
Sure.
Forget about love and friendship. You can hug each other after.
Sure.
Because when it's time to sit down and do business, you better make sure that you're in a comfortable position, and you need to do your own models. Like say, okay, if the company does $5 million in revenue, how am I going to feel if I'm splitting it with him and I'm doing most of the work? Like, am I going to take a salary at that point and we're going to split the commission because I'm doing the legwork? How do I feel about that? Like, you need to have honest conversations.
Yep.
And don't be scared not to have them. Like, you have to have them. Because what's going to happen is somebody's going to be feeling a certain way, and then then the partnership then you break up the partnership, and the beauty that was there is gone.
Yeah, it makes sense. Like the idea of kind of taking the business to where you want to get it to, and then say, how am I going to feel? What are we all going to be doing during that time? Because then we're going to understand how fair this is, right?
Yeah, because right now it's just ideas. Like, you guys are just kicking around ideas, and it's what Paco calls it, mental masturbation. It feels like we're just sharing ideas, and there's no structure, there's no corporates, there's no plan to it. It's just ideas.
Yep.
And that is okay if you are having a conversation, but if you're really going to try to take it to the next level, you got to have some structure to it, and you got to, know what you're good at and know what you're not good at. Know what you want to do, know what you just don't like to do. Like, I don't like admin. I don't like admin work. I fucking hate admin work. So I hire an admin. She monitors my calendar. She makes sure my bills are paid. She reminds me of what's due. She makes sure that I'm on Zoom calls for my kids' school. She reminded me about this one before the bill did. I already knew, because she's like, Mike, you got a Zoom call at 11:00. I was like, okay, I'll get on it.
Yeah. Nice. No, that's good though. That is really good advice, actually. Know the things that you enjoy doing and you don't enjoy doing. So as soon as you have enough money, pay someone to do the stuff that you don't like doing, because that will make you, go much faster.
Like, I'm good at bringing business. I'm good at growing business. Like, that's my strength. I'm good at seeing people and seeing what their strengths and weaknesses are and moving them around. Like that's my strength. So if I know I'm good at that, I stick to that. Like I'm not trying to fill somebody's calendar or scan something or fax something, or I don't care for none of that. Why? Because I'm only doing what's making me money.
Sure.
If it doesn't make me money,
I
I let
don't.
somebody else handle it.
Sure.
You know, like
Sure.
unless it's a new business. Don't now let's separate the two.
Got it.
My business is worth $40 million. Yes, $40 million. That's my main business. That doesn't mean that we set up
You
an
damn
auto business and I'm stuck in what was that shit? I'm in the post office mailing stuff out saying, Miguel, this is the worst shit in the world. I fucking hate this. Why do I have to be in the post office with a box of masks and face shields? But if you gotta do it, you gotta do it.
You
So
gotta do
that's
it.
part of entrepreneurship. If you gotta stand in line because you gotta buy the best Yeezys to flip them, then you gotta do it.
Yep.
You know, until you're able to get a team to spread the money around, and then you can like, yo, I got 10 guys out there getting sneakers at 5 different locations.
Sure. At first, you learn how to do it yourself, and then you can hire people to do it, right?
I'm gonna give a question to everybody. Would you rather me give you fish or teach you how to fish?
100%. I'd rather be taught how to fish more any day, any day, any day. Especially now, right? Like at the end of the day, I think right now we just went through one of the hugest opportunities for the human race. You could have literally learned anything in this COVID lockdown, made yourself super valuable, learn online marketing, whatever it is. I hope people took advantage of it. I don't know if they did, but I did. I definitely learned a lot. We started companies. We're working on many different things, right? We spoke almost every day. Me, you, Paco, multiple other people. People were hustling during this pandemic, and it's not. They're still saying it's probably a year more out, right?
I haven't stopped.
You haven't stopped. I know you've been everywhere.
I haven't stopped. Well, I guess I give people like, so one day we were kicking it around and I wanted to open up a manufacturing company because I do some stuff in the Caribbean.
Yep.
And then our friend Baco, who's his 80, he's like Noah. If anybody know, what was that guy from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, right? Splinter. He's like Splinter. He's like 82 years old, but then he has energy of like a 15-year-old, which I don't understand how that's even
exactly
possible, but he does. And then he tells us, you can't wait 30 days. We got to do it. I said, you can't wait. He said, you can't wait 90 days. So I said, we need like 90 days. He said, you can't wait 90 days. You need 30 days. So long story short, we negotiated a deal with Asia. We built the website and the e-commerce, the online marketing, and all this other crap. And we did it in how many days? 7 days?
I think it was less than a week. We were like, Paco, not only did we not do it in 30, we did it in 7.
Yeah, we did it in 7, but people need to know 7 days. We're not talking about 9 to 5. Like,
yeah.
there's no 9 to, this shit was like to 6 o'clock in the morning, you know, like, and I'm up again doing my day shit to do it 6 o'clock in the morning again the next day and the next day and the next day. So we probably worked in 7 days what most people do in a month.
Yep, exactly. I tell a lot of young people this. I will work 180 hours a week for myself before I work 40 for somebody else, right? So it's much easier to drum up that motivation when it's yours, when you're gonna value, you're gonna make a lot of the value, right? So
yeah,
it's so fun doing that stuff too, really, man. Like when you really see an opportunity and you get into it and you get into that zone where you can put those type of hours, that's the funnest part for me as an entrepreneur.
It's the best. Now, you know, like, and also I find the best success comes right after the worst pain.
Mm.
You know, like, let's think about it. 50 Cent came out with Get Rich or Die Trying. What situation was he in before that happened?
Shot up. Almost died.
You know, Jay-Z Reasonable Doubt came out. He was in the pits. He couldn't do nothing. Nothing was coming out good. When Biggie wrote Juicy,
he broke. Yeah,
he wrote it in like 2 seconds. Eminem said the best song that he wrote hi, my name is. He said he wrote it at the last song. It was the last thing he did. So sometimes it takes great pain to come up to great prosperity. So
Yep.
if anybody knows Rafael Nadal, the tennis player, Rafael Nadal says the only way he wins is when he's under a lot of pressure and he feels like he's losing. That's when the greatness comes out of him. So don't think that you're going to come out with the best material when you're in your highest part of your life. It's going to be when you're in your lowest.
Yeah,
So
and right now, this is when, like you said in the beginning, this is when millionaires, billionaires are created during times like this.
now,
Like the opportunities are enormous, but you got to be in the game to win, right? You can't just be watching on the sidelines. You got to get in there.
I got another one for everyone. Just stop complaining. I had a friend of mine that died of an overdose, right? He's a childhood friend, long life friend. You know, obviously we got older, we went our own separate ways, but he's still with a childhood friend. So when we went there, we went to eat at some place in City Islands. Everybody knows the Bronx. There's a place called City Island where we go and there's seafood. So we go, and I go. And two guys were bus drivers. One was like a bus supervisor. The other was a bus driver. And all they're doing is complaining of how bad life is. And then, but they spoke as if they were lawyers and doctors, in the sense that they had conviction. And I said, all y'all doing is complaining. You can complain all you want. I don't care about complaining. All I want to do is keep moving forward. Like Martin Luther King said, if you can't run, you walk. If you can't walk, you crawl. Just keep it moving.
Just keep moving forward. Exactly.
Motion creates emotion. And if you stop and wallow in all your pain and your stress and, you know, mommy wasn't there for me, daddy left me or abused, whatever the situation is, you're going to stay there. And it's okay to wallow for a little bit because we're human, but then put on that gangster shit and keep going forward because
or turn it into motivation, turn it into fuel to move, right? Like at the end of the day, everybody has their stuff they go through, but either it stops you or it pushes you, right? So at the end of the day, I remember I had a situation where my brother almost passed away a few years ago, and a lot of people were telling me that, like, look, you know, I know it was like hit or miss, like he could have passed away, and I couldn't really move, like I was really fucked up by it, and a lot of people were like, you got to try to figure out how to use it as motivation. So I did, and he survived. It was awesome, but at the end of the day, I caught one of those low moments. I never had one before in my life, and it was like, whoa, everybody's susceptible to this. You know, I used to never think that could happen to me, right? But that happened, and it was like, whoa, human stuff.
I had many low moments.
yeah.
I had my mother dying. I almost went through divorce with my wife. I had it all. I've been under the ground. And then I'm gonna tell you, when I've been at the lowest point in my life is when I had the most clarity. And thank God. And the other thing, I don't care what religion you are, I don't really give a shit. Have faith, because that's the only thing that pulls entrepreneurs out. Because you gotta, when you're trying to build something, you have to believe wholeheartedly beyond you. And that takes faith, whether it's Allah, whether it's God, whether you're
the universe, whatever
it is. Listen, I'm not. I don't go one way or the other. I have I have Buddhist friends, Jewish friends, Christian friends, Catholic friends, and as long as you believe in something going forward, it's the Because I'm gonna tell you, I remember when my people in my own office told me, Mike, I didn't think we were gonna survive, and I said I always knew we were. And they were like, even my own wife, she was like, man, I didn't think we were going to get through this. And I was like, I know we would. It's just, you got to believe it and speak it to the universe. And that shit comes right back to you. And that takes faith to understand that I'm going to get through it. I'm going to be successful, and I'm going to be what God put me on this earth to be.
Yep. 100%. You got.
I'm giving everybody my privates.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it's
my privates.
It is a lot of belief, man. You gotta like stand in front of that, play chicken, like you gotta stand in front of that Mack truck, like it's coming. But I'm gonna move out the way right on time, right?
And there's a constant feed of positivity, you know, because nobody ever wakes up every morning and say, all right, I'm completely full of faith and I'm completely it sways. So you know, I constantly try to feed myself with positivity to keep me moving forward, and keep me motivated, and keep me, because there's times like I just got back from Dominican Republic and I'm like, yo, I don't want to work. I'm tired. Like I don't want to do nothing. I don't even want to leave the room. And then I'm like, all right. So then I start reading things. Miguel brings me on the show, and I start feeling better. And I'm like, all right, now it's time to go tackle on some other stuff. So, you're gonna get beat down, and you're gonna feel low energy, and you're gonna feel like you want to quit. But sometimes you quit right before success.
Yeah, yep, right. Yep. You give up. That's the only real way to fail is to give up, right?
Yeah,
So at the end of the day, realistically, I create this content for people hopefully to watch it and say, you know what? I'm gonna get busy today. I'm gonna start that business. I'm gonna start that whatever it is, right? Especially now. That's why I started doing it now because realistically, there's so much opportunity if you just get in the game, whatever game that is you want to be playing, so much opportunity. So with Mike, I guess anybody have any questions for Mike? Got like 10 minutes left. We've been talking the whole time, but if you have any questions, definitely ask. What I'm thinking about is I also talk about multiple revenue streams, and you are a big multiple revenue stream kind of guy, right?
100%, 100%.
So you started out with your business, then real estate. What are some, and then you started buying businesses,
Pharmacies, yeah,
pharmacies. So that was another, those are buying more businesses that create more revenue streams, right?
yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
but they were all connected to your main business in a way, right?
100%. Well, I try to follow the life cycle of a person. A life cycle of a person, because if people need medication, people need doctors, people need food, people need shelter, people need clothing. So if you follow the cycle of what people need, then you just be able to plug in products and services within that cycle
Based on the need.
based on the need. And then once you get one thing going, you start looking around to see how you can connect dots. Okay, I said, okay, we got home care, we got 800 employees, 800 something cases. Put that together. How much pharmacy are they gonna need? All right, I know nothing about pharmacy. I'm not a pharmacist, but my boy who owns the same kind of stuff I have, he is a pharmacist. So I said, hey, you want a partner? Okay, let's buy this. Let's buy a pharmacy. We did. Okay, I got 800. He has eight almost 900. We put it together. That's a base to have people that could use our
You
medication.
already know the pharmacy is going to make money because you
We
got.
already did. So I have also adult daycares where seniors go and they stay. Why? Because my population needs it. So we opened up the adult daycare. I own adult daycare, no partners, and then we allow the people to stay there for social services with the same market that I have. So I basically took a senior and I went all the way around them, and I got all the
Sure.
different services. Now the other part that I'm working on is I'm looking at senior housing. We're trying to figure out how we could get one of these buildings over here, start putting people in there. So now we got where they live.
So they make
Now
money on
we
the rent too. You get
now
the
we make money on the
nerve.
rent. Now we make money on the drugs. Now we make money on the social. Now we make money on the home. So it's being able to capitalize on your market. Like you don't want to be selling. You're not selling water, right? And then you're going to go try to sell sand. Like now you got mud. So you're gonna if you're selling water, now we're gonna look for water bottles and filters, and now we're selling water and filters, and now okay, what else goes there? You could got these caps. Now we're gonna sell the cap. So it's following the line of what they're selling. You know what I'm saying? Like the guy from diapers.com, he started selling baby stuff. He didn't turn around and start selling,
Sure.
bullets and ammo, because it doesn't link.
Yeah.
You gotta fall within. I know it's sarcastic, but you gotta fall within the market of whatever. Now, if you're gonna sell bullets and guns, make sure you sell vests and flags, and
Yeah.
and then hit the different markets. So now you got the military could be your partner, and then police could be your partner, and private security is your partner, and that's how you build real business and money.
That's good. That's good. I never really thought about that, to be honest. Like I think about revenue streams, and I just think more about different things that make money, less about how they connect to each other
Yeah,
to help each other make more money.
yeah, yeah.
Really,
You
yeah.
connect it, and then the other stuff later on down the road is that you learn a lot about politics and how the government, how laws change, and
Mm-hmm.
how things affect you on a federal level, on a state level. If you're gonna market in another state, what are their laws and how you can move around that kind of stuff. And that's more like the advanced business models. Like
Sure,
that's kind of where I'm at right now. Everything is how we move things politically to
sure,
be able to benefit my business and my culture that
sure,
I've created.
sure.
So that's down the road once you get out of the fact finding and you kind of mature a little bit as a business.
That makes sense. That makes sense. So All right, we got 5 more minutes. I guess what I would like to know, I guess anybody will get a question, but what would, if there's advice for the next 2 years for someone like where you were when you left that job, what would you tell someone they should do in the next 6, 8 months to position themselves well to come out of this pandemic? Like if you had to start, let's say you were starting over right
Right
now,
now,
what would you do?
I don't know. Well, what's interesting? It's interesting is like I try to follow my heart and my passion of what I enjoy. I don't work for money, so I guess let's get that straight. I don't work with the idea of money. I never do. I just the money's the result of whatever I've done.
Sure,
So I try to do things now that stimulate me, with like the real estate stuff.
sure.
I love AI.
Mm,
So if I was young kid that have no responsibility, I might be building fucking robots in my house, trying to
I
figure out
agree.
how to make it work.
I
You know,
1000% agree. That's what I would be
I
doing
would do
too.
that. Now if you're a little mature and you have responsibilities and you have kids and you have that, I would try to look at creating a second lane. Like, okay, I have a job. Let's say I work for EMS. This is my day-to-day stuff. I
Yep.
would say, okay, what links to this? I might be like, all right, now I want to open up a school to train these EMS crews and do that. I probably would do that. Or I might
Sure.
say, yo, I'm going to start selling durable medical equipment, because if I have to supply people with gauze and braces and stuff like that, let me see
I could,
how I can get in that kind of business to sell this kind of
sure.
stuff.
Yep.
Like
So based
if
on
I'm in the
whatever job you have, look for ways
yeah.
to make money around it.
Yeah. That's because it's hard to say because I'm in healthcare, so I'm always looking for business in healthcare to see what can I take over, what is not running right, and where's the money. So I think people need to keep their eyes open for opportunity within their lane. Now, if their lane is a dead end, then find another lane. The
Sure.
beauty is that you can just start over.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't mean that it's gonna take off tomorrow. But if it takes off in a year or 2 years, that's only 24 months. That's nothing. That's not even a car loan.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
everybody. And here's the other thing: everybody wants everything now.
Yeah. It takes time. Everything takes time. I think we lost Mike. Mike's internet may have cut out. Oh, you said you cut out after it said everybody wants everything now. Oh, we lost him. So if he comes back, I'll continue the interview. But yeah, I mean, if you look at people like Mike, definitely multiple streams of income are how he created his wealth, right? Like at the end of the day, he started out with something that was very lucrative, right? And that's not always the case, right? But you can start with just a job. He had a job. He had a job at first.
I'm back.
Oh, you back?
Yeah, I'm back. It's just my phone's always ringing.
Oh yeah.
Do you see?
Uh,
Do you see me? Or do I have to hit camera and mic?
Camera, Mike. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, I guess I'm gonna come up at some point. Let's see. All right, so I'll try to
All
pay
right.
that. Okay.
So
Any other
basically,
questions? Anything you need
the
me to-
last thing I heard was how do people want something to happen fast, right? So you were saying people want things to happen right away.
Never happens. Never does.
Never happen.
Because people were like, "Oh my God, he was an instant sensation." Like the artist, like, "Oh my God, he was an instant sensation." No, I'm sorry. If you look at
Uh,
Nicky Jams, look how many years it took him to get to where he is.
yep,
If
yep,
anybody loves baseball, tell base people to look up. Go look up. Remember the third baseman for the Yankees? Wade Boggs, not Wade Boggs. Yeah, Wade Boggs.
yeah.
Third base for the Yankees. He played for the Twins. He was in the minor leagues for 10 years.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Look at Vin Diesel. Vin Diesel didn't break out until he was in his mid-30s. He worked as a
Wow.
bouncer in New York City. So, or
Yeah.
look at Warren Buffett. He didn't make half his fortune until he was like in his 70s.
Yep.
So,
What's his name too? Samuel Jackson. I don't think Samuel Jackson got his first role in the movie till his late 40s.
do
Late
the right
40s.
thing.
Yeah.
You're
So
right.
like it's anytime you can hit. It's just get in the game. So like that's how I think I'm gonna end the show today. Thank you, Mike, for coming and blessing the audience with the investment nuggets and entrepreneur nuggets. But the way to end this show today is get in the game today. Figure out what's a revenue stream you could try to create around what already is around you and start planning it and doing it today because every day it becomes harder every single day. So, and it's going to take time. So you might as well start right now. So thanks, Mike. I can't see you right now, but we'll talk. And thanks again for coming through.
All right, man.
All right.
Anytime you need me, anytime I'm here to help.
All
Take
right.
care.
All right. Thanks, Mike. All right. Peace. Thank you, everybody, for coming and watch the Entrepreneur Hour. Remember, innovate every day. I'm not going to be doing a show tomorrow. I am working with Mike and stuff like that on setting up a property. So I am dealing with that tomorrow. But thank you for watching, and please innovate every day. Start your journey towards entrepreneurship. Focus. Oh yeah, look, my merch came in. My son just gave me my merch. So remember the store? Remember he told you about marketing and stuff like that? So you can make stuff like this very easily. I got a video. I'll link to it. One of my revenue streams. I'm sure nobody's buying it right now, but I just created it to show people it's possible. I do have more plans with that revenue stream. Thank you guys. Thank you everybody who watched. Please like this. Please follow me on Twitch and subscribe to me on YouTube. I'm trying to grow those channels. Also Facebook. So thank you. If you like this, please like it. And remember, innovate every day. Thank you.